it's 1:30. I think I can get started. Come on in, don't be shy. Come on in, don't be shy. This is the Overcoming Shyness panel. All right, can everybody hear me? Yeah. Do I need to speak up this loudly? Yes. Okay, I will do so. All right, well, thank you guys for coming out. This is Overcoming Shyness. Oh, can you hear me now? So this is the Overcoming Shyness panel. Some of you might be here because you like Earthbound and recognize the name. Some of you might be here because you want to make more friends or you want to support someone that you care about who is shy. We're going to try to touch on all of that. I've done this panel before. I try to mix it up a little bit every time. So I'm going to go ahead and dive on in. So this is me. I'm Lauren the flute. As you can see, I'm not actually a flute. So I am approaching this as a socially awkward extrovert. So the way I describe the difference is socially awkward introverts are like, oh, I shouldn't say that. That would be dumb. Me, I shouldn't have said that. That was dumb. But so I suffer from anxiety, and I imagine a fair number of people here do too. So I get where you're coming from with that, and we're going to try to work on ways that we can work against the anxiety brain. Some of these are things that work for me or have worked for my friends, and I'm hoping they'll work for you. I am an outgoing, very, very social person, and so I am here to talk to you and get you guys talking to each other. If you see me in the hallways or the elevator, you might have a random conversation with me. I don't expect you all to be doing exactly that, but I'm going to do my best to help. Oh, speak into the microphone. All right, well, in that case, can you turn the gain down?
You're good now.
My concern is that if this gets touched, but I'll do my best. All right, speaking into the microphone. I'm going to speak to the side of the microphone. All right, so will you be my friend? Excellent, we're off to a good start. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So I've noticed as I've done this panel, I do a lot of looking at people, watching people, thinking about people, talking to people. I like people, and I've noticed that there are certain patterns in why people have a hard time talking to other people. One of those is that they don't know what to say, which we're going to get to that. But another one is that they're afraid of doing something wrong and messing it up. And so even when people do know how to have conversations, and I imagine that all of you, even those of you who think, you know, I'm very, very shy and I really don't have confidence, you probably know more than you think you do, and you're probably more skilled than you give yourself credit for. But because you're worried about making mistakes, it's hard to even get started and get in that place. So we are often way too hard on ourselves, and we tend to fixate on the things that we think we've done wrong, and that holds us back. So I have a couple of bits of advice before we get started, just because I feel that having confidence is a very challenging thing. And like I said, for a lot of people, that, as much as knowing what to say, is what makes it hard to talk to strangers, to make friends, and have conversations. So just a couple of small self-esteem related tips to keep in mind. Try to look at yourself objectively. So the language that we use to describe ourselves actually affects how we think about ourselves. So for example, if you're self-conscious, like, oh, I'm too tall, oh, I'm too short, an example of thinking about that objectively is just to think about the number measurement of how many inches tall you are, because numbers don't have feelings. Or for example, talking about value judgments, I can say, one of the things that I struggle with that's hard for me is organization. Or I can say, I'm a disorganized mess. And you can hear the difference there. And the way I describe myself in those terms actually affects the way I think about it, whether I'm being down on myself and focusing on what I do badly, or I'm thinking about it more objectively. So if you start feeling like turning in on yourself, like, oh, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this, try really hard to forgive yourself and don't judge yourself. Another thing that I think sometimes people get hung up on with friendship is like, why would anyone want to be friends with me? Because when you go in the self-esteem spiral, I don't know if you guys have that, where it kind of like you're on this downhill slope and it gets worse and worse. Have one lifeline you can cling to, something positive about yourself that you can love about yourself, that other people will love about you. For me, no matter how dark I'm feeling, I know I genuinely care about other people. And so whatever my brain is telling me, because anxiety brain will tell you a lot of lies, I can cling to that. So it's helpful to kind of think about, you know, what is it? Is it your creativity, your intelligence, your bravery, your problem solving, your ability to listen to friends and care? There's something about you that makes you special and wonderful, and that's the thing that you want other people to discover about you. And then finally, forgiving yourself if things don't go right the first time. It's okay. We are here to do things and get better at them. And so this is one of the most important things that I've gotten from leading this panel, which has been personally important to me, is that I've seen the power of people giving themselves permission to try something. Giving yourself permission to take a risk, giving yourself permission to make a mistake and keep trying. We are in a safe place right here. We are all in agreement that either we need to work on or have chosen to work on our shyness, or we're here to support other people who are working on their shyness. And so that means that every single person in this room is on your side. So no matter what happens or how a conversation goes, the person you're talking to wants you to succeed. So let me give you permission to give yourself that chance. Take that risk. Because failure doesn't mean that you have entered the failure state from which there is no escape. It just means that one time you tried. And maybe it didn't go the way you wanted it to, but you can just try again. And that's very important because I feel like we do fixate sometimes on the things that might go wrong or the things that have gone wrong. And if we give ourselves permission to think about it as a work in progress, then it's easier to take that first step. So you might be here thinking, I can't do this. I'm going to sit in the back of the room because I don't know if I want to be here. Well, I can tell you I've seen a lot of people have to face this thing that they think is challenging. Spoiler alert, you can do it. You are more capable, I think, than you give yourself credit for. So we're going to do that. Permission. I hereby give you all permission. We're going to take some risks today. The fact that you are here, especially if you're one of those people who is really unsure, because this is really outside your comfort zone, you are here. And that in itself is a victory. So let me give you as a reward for that permission to do whatever you want to try here, to do the thing that's hard and scary. This is a safe place and we're all in this together. So let's do this. So if you know my costume, I'm from Final Fantasy VI, you can probably guess I like RPGs. And as anyone who's ever played an RPG knows, if you want to get better at a skill, you have to get experience, whether that's by fighting monsters or doing the thing over and over again, jumping and jumping and jumping to get stronger legs. Talking to people is a skill like that. And I know that for people for whom it doesn't come naturally, it can kind of seem like this magical thing that you are either born able to talk to people or you're not. And I'm here to tell you that that's not how it works. That's not true. It is a skill you can build. Then there are a lot of things that you probably can do that you couldn't do when you were born or when you first started them. Some things, driving a car. I don't think anybody sits in a car and magically knows how to do it. You have to work at it. You have to build the skills, learn what you're doing, and then practice, practice, practice until one day you merge on the highway and you're like, I know I'm not going to die because I've done this before. But you had to work to get there. This is like my only braggable opportunity in a video game. I am naturally terrible at dancing. I am so bad at dancing and really, really not coordinated. But I love DDR. Do you have any idea how many hours of practice went into this? Because those of us who play video games are probably used to failing at things and 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 failing at things. How many of you have beaten Dark Souls? If you can withstand the amount of failure that is Dark Souls, you can do anything. Because the thing that I find is valuable about Dark Souls is that if you die in the game, you didn't fail. You learned a little bit. And each time you learn a little bit more and a little bit more until next thing you know, you're doing the thing that's hard and you're succeeding at it. And bonus, here, doing the thing that's hard, nobody is going to flatten you with a giant hammer. The risks are low. So here's another thing. I don't know how many of you guys hate talking on the telephone, but I used to. And then my parents, in their infinite wisdom, decided to do something about that. So they delivered me an ultimatum. They said, if you want pizza, you can have pizza, but you have to order it. And so you're kind of like, do I want the pizza? But I hate the phone call, but I want the pizza. So finally, I decided that I was going to do it. But if I was going to do it, I wanted to know what I was getting into. Because nobody is born knowing how to order a pizza either, or at least not to my knowledge. So I sat down with my parents and I was like, all right, what are they going to ask me? How do I answer that? What do they say then? How do I answer that? What kind of questions am I going to face and what kind of things are going to happen? And I had a stack of sticky notes. And I wrote down every step of the conversation, and I put my sticky notes next to the phone. And for like almost a year, every week when I ordered pizza, I used the sticky notes. And when people went off script, that's scary. But again, nobody flattened me with a giant hammer. It was okay. And the more I did it, the easier it got. So now I can order pizza without a second thought, and it's fine because I know it's coming. But I didn't start that way. And the thing is, other conversations function like that. There is a pattern to conversations. There's a way to approach talking to people, getting to know people, all of these different skills. And you can break them down and study them and plan them and practice them and get better until they feel more comfortable. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about conversations, meeting people, making friends, all of that good stuff as skills that we can work and build. So I was talking to people a little bit at the beginning of this panel, and some people were saying, you know, I have no problems continuing a conversation, but it's really hard for me to start one. Or for me, I'm not good at ending conversations. So it's not like having a conversation, meeting people is a one skill thing. It's got multiple skills. It's like a whole skill tree. So some of these might be easy for you, some of these might be hard for you, that's okay. Sometimes all of those things might be hard for you, and that's totally okay. I like to think about it like, I don't know if you guys have ever done the like, you know, what D&D class would I be? I'm a bard, I'm the one you want to go talk to people, but you don't want me to do any feats of strength. You might be a wizard, you might be a ranger, you might be a barbarian and flatten people with your fists. And that's okay. I feel like we roll stat sheets when we're born, and there are things that we're maybe more naturally good at, but that doesn't mean we can't do other things. So if this is hard for you, like I told you, a ton of hours went into me learning how to play DDR. You may not have to use as many hours practicing talking to people, but if there's a thing that you think you aren't naturally good at, you can still do it. So embrace the things that you're good at and celebrate them. And if there are things you need to work on, you're in good company because we all have those things. So for those of you for whom it's actually really scary to be here, like I said before, the fact that you're here, the fact that you are sitting in this chair, in this thing that you might think is hard and scary is amazing. You are confronting a personal fear, and you're taking that step. And because you're taking that step, I know that you're going to be able to practice it, and I know you're going to be able to get better at it, and I think you should be proud of yourselves for that. And I'm honestly, I have big feelings, but when I say I'm proud of the people who confront their fears to do this, I mean it. I am genuinely proud and amazed at the people at MAGFest who come to things like this. So, the actual conversation side of things. Step 0, because this is before the conversation begins. So we're going to break this down one step at a time. And if you're like, this is the one I need to work on, take notes in your head, or I can put this online if you want. But so preparing for conversation. Remember what I told you, the story about me using the telephone? You can do that with other conversations. In fact, if you are anxious about things, this might be very helpful to you. The nice thing about being the person to initiate conversation is that you can stand here and be like, that person. I'm going to talk to that person. And then you do your prep work. And when you're ready, you can approach them. So if you feel kind of on the spot and panicky, you can take a moment to ground yourself, figure out what you want to do, think about it, and then do it. So some hints or some tips on that. You've singled out this person that you want to talk to them. Well, why is it that you want to talk to them? What was it about them that appealed to you? Is it something that they're wearing? Do they look really cool? Can you tell because they've got a keychain on their backpack from your favorite video game that there's something in common? Do they have a look about them that's really friendly and you want to talk to someone and this person looks like they might respond positively? Whatever that reason is, file it away because we're going to use that later. Other things to keep in mind, and this is something that people can sometimes have a harder time with, especially if reading people doesn't come naturally to you, which it doesn't for some of us. If you're in a room with a bunch of people, or you're on a bus, or any number of spaces, and the person is staring at their phone, reading a book, or listening to headphones, that's probably a sign they're not in the mood to be talked to. Even if you think they look really cool, that's usually a sign. But if they are kind of like looking for somebody, and maybe looking a little shy, they might be waiting for someone to come say hi, and you could make their day by being that person. If they're in the middle of a conversation with other people, might not be the right time. So it's good to kind of have that situational awareness and be intentional and strategic about, is this the right time to talk to this person? Another thing you can take away from this is if you want to signal to other people, please come talk to me, wearing headphones, reading a book with your phone in it is probably not the best way to indicate that. So it's kind of a two-way street there. And I do get asked sometimes, people want to know what are some tips on understanding other people so that I can approach them more confidently. But say you've sized this person up and you're like, this person is cool, they're wearing a shirt from my favorite video game, they are smiling and kind of looking at the crowd, they're probably open to it, I'm going to talk to them now, I've done it, I've steeled myself up, I've used all the potions, my party is full of health, we're going to take on this boss. Commencing the conversation. So I told you to keep in mind why you wanted to talk to them. Think about that as an opening move. If you know, okay, you're wearing a shirt from something I love, like if I saw someone wearing a Phantasy Star 1 shirt, I would be thrilled because there aren't that many people who have that. But one of the nice things about coming to a nerd event is that many of us are literally wearing our favorite things or have, keychains, signs, something about us that indicates like, I am this kind of a nerd and I want to meet people like me. So you've kind of got an easier step here because you're starting with people who are letting you know what you have in common. So you can use that as a starting point, like, hey, I see you like so-and-so. Hey, I saw that you're really, really good at that game in the arcade. That's amazing. It's good to start off on a positive foot as much as you can, complimenting someone. Who doesn't like being complimented if it feels sincere? So you can go in and you can say, you're really good at this video game. I love your style. I love your hair. I love the fact that you love this game. The people are automatically predisposed to liking you. I will give the caveat here, if you're going to start talking to someone by complimenting them, try not to compliment like, oh, you're so pretty. It's best to compliment someone on something that they have control over, how they're choosing to present themselves to the world, like wearing bright colors. It's a good entry point, but it's also who they are as a person, not something inherent to them that might be hard for them to hear. So I think that that's a really good icebreaker to get started. But the first thing is to say hello. So this is why I was trying to get you guys to sit a little closer to people. I want you to just take a couple of seconds to turn to a person who you don't know near you and just say hi to them. All right. So that is the most entry-level practice that we can do. But for some of you, that probably was pretty hard because this is not something that you're comfortable or used to doing. For some of you, that might be the easy part. But either way, as you can see, everyone here knows that I'm about to have someone turn to me and say hi. So it's a safe place. We're all doing this together. But what do we do from there? And for some people, this transition from saying hi, they can follow that first step, but what do we do next? I think of conversation as kind of a cross between Pong and like a BioWare dialogue tree wheel. Again, I like RPGs. So conversation is a co-op experience. Here's another challenging game if you've ever played Overcooked. We are in this together. It is not meant to be people I think that sometimes when you're stressed or nervous, you kind of go into autopilot where you start talking about how good you are at something or this thing you love and how much you know and you want to impress the other person. But really, this isn't this is a conversation, not an opportunity to just expound upon a thing you love. And sometimes when you talk about this thing that you love, it kind of winds up where you make the other person feel like they don't know as much. So if you think about this, be as positive and supportive of the other person, whether they know as much as you do or not. Think about it as a cooperative experience that you're working together. Try to lift the other person up. And especially if you're feeling, here's a little side tip for those of you who have self-esteem issues. If you start feeling really self-deprecating, resist that urge and turn it around into saying something positive about the other person. It's kind of a good fallback tool to have because then instead of you feeling uncomfortable and the other person being sad that you're sad, you make them feel good and then you feel good that they feel good. And everybody feels good. It's a circular thing. Another thing, ask them about themselves. So I don't know if you guys have played Mass Effect or the games that have branching dialogue like this. You can usually shut a conversation down by just being like, no. But if you want to get to know the characters, when they're talking, you listen to them and your character can say, what about this? Tell me more about that. The same thing happens with real-world conversations. If you want to keep a conversation going, listen to what the person says and find opportunities to ask them more. You have chosen this person that you want to talk to. You want to get to know them. So ask them about themselves. The nice thing about that is that people love talking about themselves. It's one of the things that you can do to make people like you the most. If you get somebody to just talk at you about themselves, they're going to walk away thinking, what a great conversation that was. So if your goal here is to make people like you, get to know them and let them talk about themselves and listen more than you talk. Sometimes when we get nervous, we just kind of words spill out and out and out and out. That's, I think, a natural thing to do, but as much as you can, try to give them the space to talk. Ask follow-up questions, BioWare style. Listen to them not just for your next opportunity to talk, but also to continue prompting them to keep talking. Like if you say, you love this game, what's your favorite character? They talk about the character. They say that that reminds them of something in their real life. You can ask them to follow up about that. Also, though, this is not the Spanish Inquisition. So rapid-fire questions, you can break that up a little bit, expecting that they may turn that question around and ask you what you think about it. Or you can start off by being like, well, I think this, but I know not everyone agrees. What do you think? And so that way you are participating in the conversation, giving them some context, and then opening up the floor for them to talk about themselves, which will make them feel comfortable. And also you can express to them that you want to know them better. You want to understand them better. You're making that time for them. So this can also be tricky. I think, especially in nerdy scenes, we have really big feelings about the things we love. Really big feelings about the things we love. And sometimes we talk to somebody and they have the exact opposite opinion. And that's okay. You can have a productive, healthy, interesting conversation about that. Just remember that it's a conversation, it's a discussion, it's not a debate, and it's not an argument. If you're trying to get to know someone, telling them that their opinion is wrong is probably not the best direction to take. But sometimes you can have a conversation where you're just like, we do not see eye to eye, and I'm really upset about this. That's okay. This maybe isn't the conversation for you. You can kind of step it back, cut your losses, thank them for their time, and move on. You don't have to stay in a conversation that makes you uncomfortable. So here's another practice thing. I have taken the liberty of scripting your next conversation. Here are your questions. They're pretty simple. Take a few minutes. This is why I was suggesting that you sit near other people. Turn to somebody. It can be the person you said hi to. It can be someone else. And ask them these 3 questions. And if a conversation happens, great. All right. I'm going to cut you guys off. Beep, 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 beep. All right, folks. All right. I hope that those of you who were able to have a conversation with someone already have learned a few things about your ability to have conversations. Just that you don't want them to end. Now, if you are somebody who had a hard time with that, that's all right. Like I said, we're all coming at this from different experience levels. Excuse me. Chaos. Chaos. Can I have your attention, please? All right. right, so clearly this is something we have trouble with. So ending conversations, like I said, that's something that I personally struggle with. And a lot of people have trouble with this. And sometimes this can lead to having conversations that just go on even though you have to go somewhere, or you have to use the bathroom, or you're just really tired and want to lock yourself in a dark room and recover from too much socializing. So if you have to go for any of those reasons, you can just say, you know, this has been really lovely. I've enjoyed talking to you, but I've got to go. It's a concert starting. I'm feeling pretty tired. I need to go to my room. Feel free to be direct, and don't be afraid to say, I need to end this conversation right now. But if you liked the person and you want to talk to them again, you can say that too. Don't forget to thank them, you know. Thank you for your time. I've really enjoyed talking to you. And if you end the conversation gracefully, or even if you end the conversation at all, sometimes they might have to go too, but they don't know how to do it, so they'll be grateful. So, okay, so say you've had a conversation. It sounds like some of you have been having a pretty good time talking to people and you want to take it to the next step. Probably don't beat them within an inch of their life first. Mortal Kombat is not a good life lesson. But what do you do to make friends with someone? If you want to stay in touch with someone, well, you should probably let them know. And you can give them the option to keep in touch with you. So this is another one of those things where it can be careful, you may have to be careful to think about another person's boundaries and comfort. Because you might be super excited about talking to them, but they might be shy about that. So you can offer them a way to keep in touch with you. I would recommend, you know, Discord or Twitter or something like that instead of your phone number, just because there's a little bit more personal distance there. And if they say, oh yeah, no, I'd love to keep in touch with you, you exchange contact information, go ahead and reach out to them. You can invite them to do something with you, make a connection. Sometimes people are like, I like this person and I don't know what to do next. Having an idea of an activity to do rather than just standing and talking can relieve pressure, especially if the two of you are both a little bit shy. So you can invite them to do a concrete action with you and with your friends. Having a group of friends around can take a lot of the pressure off. So I've had people ask me, what are some activities I can do? Here at MAGFest, concerts are a good one, tabletop gaming, things like that. But these are some other activities you can do. If you tend to have anime night or board game night with your friends and you meet someone cool, you can invite them to do that. If they seem shy or like that might be too much pressure, ask them to invite one of their own friends so they've got an ally with them and you get a bonus friend. So it works out really well for everybody. So say you've contacted somebody, you sent them a message and you didn't hear back. What do you do? Feel free to follow up with them. If you meet someone at MAGFest and they're cool and you talked about a band today and then the band's playing tomorrow, you can send them a message and be like, hey, you know, I really enjoyed talking to you. Remember we were talking about that band? Well, they're going on in half an hour. I don't know if you're going to be there. Maybe you want to go together. If you haven't heard from them and all of MAGFest is gone and you get home and everyone's recovered from con plague and you've had a little bit of time, you can reach out again like, hey, just wanted to check in, because it's possible that they really want to talk to you but they were overwhelmed by all of the things there are to do here. So feel free to reach out to them again. If you reach out to them a couple of times and it's been, you know, maybe 3 times and they haven't responded, it may be time to just accept that maybe this friendship isn't going to work out. And that's okay, because the thing is, nobody likes being rejected, and you guys probably don't want me to talk about this, but it is really important because I think, as I said at the beginning of this panel, we tend to focus on things that don't go well. And I think that it is important to remember that even if someone doesn't want to be your friend, it might have nothing to do with you. Maybe they're having a bad day and everything looks dark. Maybe you have the same name as their arch nemesis and they just can't get over it. Like, there are so many reasons that have nothing to do with you, that have everything to do with where the other person is coming from. So it doesn't mean that you did something wrong or that there's something wrong with you. It's just this particular instance didn't work out. So try as much as you can not to take it personally. Because as hard as it is, if you think someone's awesome and they don't reciprocate, the thing is, there are people out there who are going to think that you are the coolest person. Someone you think is awesome is going to think you're awesome. This is going to happen. If it's not this person, it might be the next. Making friends isn't the sort of thing where you have to get every single one in order to count. Not every single conversation has to work out. Not every single friendship has to work out. What matters is finding the people whose particular flavor of weird is compatible with your flavor of weird. So give yourself permission to try, because if the person you talk to today isn't the person that you're going to be best friends with, the person you talk to tomorrow might be. And if you don't make that effort to try and talk to them and you don't give yourself permission and open yourself up to that possibility, you might miss out on some chances to meet really cool people. So this is our last interactive component. We've got some time. There is going to be a little bit of wrap up after this, so be prepared to be shushed with about 5 minutes to go. But I'm going to loose you on the room a little bit. This time I'm not scripting your conversation, but it seems like some of you are doing just fine without that. But here is an excuse to talk to people and find out more about them and maybe find things you have in common. Now, some of these, you can use your skill that we did in step 0, where you look at a person and try to figure out, like, okay, that person has a guitar case. They're probably a musician. This is not about bingo. This is not about catching them all. This is just an excuse to talk to people and have a particular thing. And if it is very hard for you to talk to people, if you're one of those people for whom saying hello is difficult, and all you want to do is just say hi to people, and that's what you're comfortable with right now, that's okay. And for those of you who are comfortable talking to people, this fellow right here told me he has no problems talking to people. I would suggest go find somebody who looks a little bit uncomfortable, who looks a little shy, and do them the favor of saying hello to them first. Try to help each other, because we are all in this together. We are all people who love video games. We love having an opportunity to celebrate the things we have in common. This is the time to do it. We are friends, we are allies, we are working together. We are all in this tutorial level together. So feel free to go amongst each other and talk. Try to talk to people you don't know. Learn a little bit about them. Give yourself that chance. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap things up right now. I'm glad to hear it looks like a lot of people have been having conversations. That makes me happy. I will turn you loose to go be with those new friends shortly. But right now, we've got just a couple of things to wrap up. What next? It looks like a lot of you are doing very well. I hope that you have found having a guaranteed space where everyone else is in the same boat as you has helped. So what you did here, you can take and do anywhere. There are many opportunities at home or elsewhere to practice. You may not have a guaranteed, this person probably knows video games, this person probably gets where I'm coming from, quite to the same degree. But you have so many opportunities to have small conversations and big conversations. And the thing that's really important about that is that even if you say hello to a stranger on the street, that's experience. You can grind for experience in all sorts of ways and still consider that a victory. So if you go to the grocery store, talk to the cashier, compliment them, comment on the weather, something like that, that may feel inane, but if you're a person for whom that is a bit outside your comfort zone, doing the thing counts. And the easy thing with that is you may never see that person again for the rest of your life. So if you say that and the conversation doesn't go well and you're like, that's fine. There's no consequences. No one is flattened with a hammer and it's not going to follow you around. So look for those opportunities. Look for people you can talk to, because every experience point you get counts towards your next level. And before you know it, you will be more comfortable. You will be more confident the more you do these things. So your homework, should you choose to accept it, so talk to strangers at MAGFest. The absolute baseline easy thing to do, today and only today, I want you to compliment 2 strangers. Now this can be drive-by. If that's a little bit much, you can just say, I love your costume. And that counts. And I want you to do it once to prove to yourself you can do it, and a second time to prove to yourself that that wasn't a fluke. And so I think once you've done that, if you're like, oh, I can do this, try to do that every day of MAGFest. And each time it'll get a little easier, and maybe the person will turn to you and be like, thanks, do you know this game? Conversation. So look for those opportunities here. MAGFest is a great place for that. And if you feel like meeting a lot of people, my friend Brenneman, who if you were here at the very beginning, he was here with me, he and I are running an event called Speed Friending in the arena, where you will have an opportunity to sit with and meet a whole lot of people in a structured and safe environment. So if you feel like you're ready to talk to a bunch of strangers, again, in a structured, safe environment, there are opportunities to do that. But even if not, MAGFest is full of friendly people. And especially if this is your first MAGFest, People want to help you. They want to be supportive. So don't be afraid as much as you can of letting people know, I'm new here. I don't know what I'm doing. What do you suggest for me to do? Because there are so many good people at MAGFest who are just waiting to help you have a good time. So I hope that for those of you who maybe thought, I can't do this, and then you came to this panel and I wound up having to shush you like 3 or 4 times to try to keep going, I hope that what you take away from that is like, I can do this. I did this. And you can keep doing that every day. So I hope that you can be proud of yourself both for being here and for doing the scary thing. And I hope you can continue doing it because every single person in this room has something to offer the world and to offer friends. And I hope that you can see that and that you can connect with other people. So thank you so much. I hope to see some of you around. If you see me and you want to practice talking, I am, like I said, a very friendly person, so I'm happy to chat with you. I'll be around all weekend. So take care and enjoy your MAGFest. Let's make some friends.